It is 9:30 on a Saturday morning. Hey gang, remember how I felt about episode 9? It was disgusting. Give me 10 seasons. Why did the writers decide to double down and send it back to me? It's not even funny. The 24 hours after I watched this episode, I wasn't able to do anything. Let's get into a chat about why. Yeah, that's about right. So basically everyone had a moment that I want to talk about in this episode, so we're really going to try and just go for it and go as fast as we can so that this isn't an hour long. My snake is watching me film this video. Hold on. Hi buddy. You want to talk about the pit? Yeah, you do. What a fun little guy. Starting with McKay. It's been a while since I've actually talked about her, but she's doing great. She's doing great with her patients and with Ogilvy. Now, last year McKay was a third-year student doctor, so I'm pretty sure she's just become a resident. But if you look at her skills with patients and just her general philosophy, it feels like she's been doing this for way longer. She's great with patients who are in difficult places, to the point of taking us outside of the pit to go and treat them.
I see organization in my future. Sorry.
So fun to go outside the pit for a second, you know, especially in the middle of the season. Hello. They're feeling crazy. She comforts Javadi when she's having difficulty with the cancer patient, and she's very good at keeping Ogilvy in check, but never belittling him or giving up on him. She's firm but fair, and I'm gonna say everything that Robbie was pre-season 1, or maybe like pre-Adamson's death, before all of the like darkness of the job really got to him. Then with Ogilvy, I think we're really starting to see like a turn in him. If we were to compare his story to the greatest redemption arc of all time, Zuko from Avatar: The Last Airbender, I think he's kind of in his beginning of season 3 when Zuko is accepted by the Fire Nation again, but realizes that he's been fighting on the wrong side the whole time, so he has to leave of his own free will phase. A big moment in this episode is when the patient that he's been kind of bonding with over like books and reminding him of his dad starts dying because he missed something in the orders. He gets pulled into the trauma room with him and kind of just shuts down like we've seen him do in the past. Let me tell you, beating down Ogilvy might be my favourite Ogilvy. Second only to Ogilvy being teamed up with Javadi. I'm gonna die on this hill that Ogilvy and Javadi are like a peak pairing. They were so fun. Bring them back to me, please. He passes up on the intubation even when offered it, and he's been gagging for an intubation for the past like 3 episodes. He apologizes to Robbie for missing something. He asks to stay with the patient into surgery, and he even takes the blame for what happens when Javadi's mum starts throwing strays at her, which was so uncalled for, by the way. Men being humbled is the only acceptable version of a man. And I'm okay to say that because looking at the stats on this YouTube channel, there's no men watching this. Alright, Dana has a couple of moments this episode which really create a fun parallel between her and Robbie. First off, she has a chat with the night shift charge nurse who's also the death doula for the cancer patient who's now passed. Excuse me. Dana insists that she takes the night off and that she'll cover for her until a new night shift charge nurse can come in, who I'm excited to see. That's fun. A new night shift charge nurse. So we're seeing hints about how this shift will go past the usual 12 hours to create the 15 episode season. First with Dana and also with Robbie, but I'll go over that later. They're both staying an extra couple of hours, so now it's just a question of who else is staying and why. Dana also has a lovely conversation with Mel, who's having some trouble trying to comfort herself after realizing that her sister's like growing much more distant. Now at first I was like, sick. Dana will be much better at this than Robbie would be, but honestly, I don't think she was. Now, her general demeanor and tone is much more nicer than Robbie today, but her actual advice was basically stop throwing a pity party, something very similar to what Robbie said to Mohan. Now, I think that this could mean one of two things. Either Robbie and Dana are both at a point in their careers where they just kind of give bad advice. Dana's just a lot nicer about it. Or The writers are genuinely trying to tell us that compartmentalizing your emotions is the best way to get through a shift in the pit, which feels wrong, but I don't work in a hospital, so actually I can't say shit about it. I don't think that's what they're trying to say, but we gotta keep our wits about us. I think the deciding factor in if it's this or that is gonna be when Al-Hashimi gets involved, but I'll save that for when I actually talk about her. Back to Dana. We see her acting quite similar to Robbie here, but we also see her differing in some aspects. When Robbie is worried about leaving the ER that night, Dana assures him and is like, hey, don't worry about it, we'll get through it. It's just a matter of if you'll let us. This whole season, we've been seeing Robbie worry about letting Al-Hashimi take over for him, and he's making sure that everyone is, like, in a good place before he leaves. But Dane is the one who's been getting all the praise for keeping the ship running from basically everyone except for Robbie. This definitely feels like another case of Robbie taking Dana for granted. But we also know that Dana was away for a short time between seasons 1 and 2. But unfortunately, we don't have a lot of insight into how that actually went, so we don't really know how Dana or Robbie can feel about it. But at the end of the day, what this means is that Dana knows that she can take off some time from the pit and it won't actually collapse, whereas Robbie has said he hasn't taken a vacation in who knows how long. I hate that I just said the word vacation. And that, I think, is the biggest difference between these two. Dana has taken that leap to separate herself from work, but Robbie has yet to do that. So, let's have a chat about how Al-Hashimi fits into all of this. Quickly staying on the previous topic, we know that Al-Hashimi knows Mel and Mohan from previous work, so I think it wouldn't be crazy to say that she's going to be able to connect with them a little bit better and give them much better advice for how to deal with their problems in the future. Why did my voice left me? I know in a previous episode I threw on some doubt about how Al-Hashimi feels about Mel, but I'll concede that there's every chance that she just wanted what was best for her and I was looking far too into things. I think if the writers are going down the route of demonstrating how Dana and Robbie's dealing with it methods are ineffectual, Al-Hashimi is definitely the way to go. Do I know her method? No. I can barely control my own emotions, but I'm hoping she has something good up her sleeve. This episode, we get many reaffirmations that Al-Hashimi is probably going to be a great replacement for Robbie. She's asking how he does his handovers, so obviously wanting to keep it as seamless as possible. She's focused on the mother of an injured child to the point of following her outside of the pit once again and stopping her from walking into the busy road. She asks Langdon about the tension between him and Santos, and then gently encourages him to go and fucking apologize, which he then actually does do. She also wants to call a lawyer for the patient who's currently being detained by ICE. Kind of the opposite of Robbie, who wants to discharge her as soon as possible. Now, he has his own reasons for doing this, but Al-Hashimi's reasons, I'm gonna say, are much more ideal. She's trying to create a world where you can put in all of your focus into one patient and making sure they get the best care possible without it having any negative effects on other patients, which Robbie last season learned you can't do. He tried to save Leah but had to stop because otherwise it was going to very negatively impact every other patient in the hospital. Big, hard lesson from Robbie, and I don't know if Al-Hashimi has, I don't know if it's a lesson that she needs to learn. I'm sure she knows it, but it's understandable that they have these differing opinions. And I'm just curious if it's gonna last with Al-Hashimi, if she's gonna have a similar moment that Robbie had at the end of season 1, and if she, if she's gonna grow bitter. I don't know if it'll happen anytime soon, That feels like it was built up over a series of years being the attending at the pit. Okay, so Sandon finally have their conversation that they've been needing to have for 11 episodes now. 11 hours. Bitch, that's crazy. This was built up a little bit beforehand with the previously mentioned conversation between Langdon and Al-Hashimi, but also in a conversation between the roomies. It's a short little thing. It seems to be mostly Whittaker building up the courage to tell Santos that he's going to be house-sitting for Robbie and probably moving out. But he also tries to open up Santos to the idea that Langdon has actually changed, but she's quite dismissive of it. Just to chat about the roomies for a moment though, We're really only getting breadcrumbs with them, but this scene does seem like it's hinting at a closeness in their relationship. I mean, Whitaker doesn't seem all that hung up on getting Santos to change her mind about Langdon. His argument seems like more of a comfort to Santos rather than telling her off for distrusting him still. He also seems pretty nervous about telling Santos that he's leaving, which could either mean he's worried about leaving her, or he doesn't want to offend her by taking up, like, a new living situation. I mean, the fact that he's taking Robbie's offer so easily feels like to me that he doesn't think that Santos likes living with him, which could be true, but... And we don't really know how Santos feels about this, only that she does sort of worry for Whitaker.
He just wants to help everybody, and I just don't want to see him taken advantage of, you know?
And that does imply a level of closeness. And I'll fucking take it. All this to say, I think that there's a bit of miscommunication gonna happen in the future for the besties, and I'm hoping that this results in them growing closer eventually, rather than separating. Please. God. Then, going on to Langdon for a minute, he reveals that his wife almost did actually divorce him, so the marriage isn't actually as peachy as he made it out to Dana. It's a little thing, but it feels very on purpose that Langdon almost boasts about his marriage to Dana, who he wants her to think that he's doing well. But with Santos, he really plays the victim card and talks about how he was nearly divorced because he wants her to, you know, let up on him.
I'm not the bad guy in this, Mitchell. I'm the victim.
But back to Sandon and this conversation. So Langdon goes and finally apologizes to Santos for being an absolute dick, which Santos kind of like doesn't accept but kind of brushes off and it goes to walk away. But then she changes her mind, comes back around, shoots him in the head, and everyone cheers. No, she just turns around and is like, I don't care that you've apologized. I don't trust you. You stole drugs from the hospital. And I think we should take this as a moment of growth from Santos, okay? She could have just left and the bad air would still be humming around this entire pit between the two of them. But she turned around and went, actually, no, I don't want this apology. I just hate you. Nothing you can do about it. Fucking Robbie and Santos, like father, like daughter. No! Langdon is left kind of reeling, especially because Santos basically said, if you want to get back in my good books, tell everyone that you stole drugs. Because currently no one actually knows that he stole drugs, apparently. I think it is just Santos, Robbie, and Langdon. So she's like, you know, fucking tell everyone what actually happened, because currently I'm the bad guy still. And that's the end of the conversation. But not before we get a little focus rack on Langdon here and see that Al-Hashimi is just sort of behind, peeking out over the shoulder. She's taken from Robbie well, you know, lurking around, constantly lurking. So there's every chance that Al-Hashimi now knows that Langdon stole drugs and, like, had fully committed a crime. He's not just an addict, he's a criminal. And, okay, I know, like, I'm not saying hate to Langdon, I do actually like Langdon, but he did steal drugs. That was a crime. And he's very lucky he didn't get reported for it, okay? And this also goes even deeper. I'd like to give a quick shout out to my girlfriend for actually spotting this. We finished this episode. I think I went to go pee. I came back and she'd started streaming her computer and had opened like Microsoft Paint or something and created a diagram to explain to me a thing she'd noticed in this scene.
And then this is hallway, and then right there.
In the middle of this conversation, Santos has a bit of an outburst, which causes a nurse who's been walking by to sort of give them both a look, which then makes the two doctors kind of look around and check that they're not being listened in on. And here, we see Santos look this way over Langdon's shoulder.
She looked at her, and he only looked at there.
And after that, she repeats herself, calling him out once again for stealing drugs. Now, what are the chances that when Santos looked over Langdon's shoulder, she saw Al-Hashimi peeking out? I mean, let's have a look at her face journey in this, 3 seconds. This could just be her staring after the nurse, I guess. But it could also be this face of, seeing her boss and being like, I could inadvertently rat on Langdon right now, and no one would be the wiser. And it makes sense. I mean, she said it. There's 3 people who know about what Langdon did, and one of them's about to leave for 3 months. Or longer if he has his own way. She needs someone new in her corner, and Al-Hashimi seems to me like someone who's not going to sweep it under the rug like Robbie did. At least not without, some convincing. Honestly, this is a pretty shady move from Santos, but at this point, I don't care. She can do whatever she wants to, like, survive in this pit right now. And finally, we're gonna talk about Robbie, because of course we are. This fucking man cannot let another episode have the spotlight for even a second, can he? Jesus. And this man is a mixed bag this episode. I don't know what he's doing, his coworkers don't know what he's doing, I don't think he knows what he's doing. What the fuck is he doing? Going back to the ICE agent situation, boo. Robbie is trying to get the victim treated and treated as quick as possible. Not because he's a dick, but because the agents are hanging around and scaring off patients and staff. So really, this whole situation is like a modern retelling of the trolley problem. Let the trolley take its course, hurting more and more passerbyers as it reaches its destination of someone actually tied down to the tracks, or pull the lever and give it a little shortcut and save all of those random people. Al-Hashimi is hoping that they can untie the person from the tracks before the trolley gets there, but Robbie is aware that the trolley's also already hurting a bunch of people. So I really don't blame Robbie for what he chose to do with this. There's no right answer. It's a very philosophical moment, honestly. What does cause problems is when Robbie has this residual anger from everything and goes and tries to strong-arm the ICE agents into just taking their patient and leaving with her. The problems that come from this, I will get into later because it is a very sensitive issue for me. What the fuck? So Robbie's decision making during the ICE situation was difficult, but it's kind of hard to give judgment on it. But what is annoying is this conversation he has with McKay. Now when McKay goes outside of the pit to treat a patient, her cancer patient inside passes away, and when she gets back, Robbie fucking lays into her for it. Now, Robbie does make some correct arguments. McKay did leave the ER, and she did, like, kind of steal hospital stuff to go and treat this patient, but all of this was in favor of treating a patient who needs it. What Robbie is criticizing is technically against the rules, I guess, but since when did Robbie give a fuck about the bureaucracy of the hospital? This feels less like he's actually mad at McKay for not being there, and he's more mad about the lack of control he has in his ER at the moment, especially with the ICE agents in. And McKay not being there when she was needed is just like the easiest thing to get mad at. But then, he's being really nice to Javadi.
You need to pick a side.
First of all, with this moment in the trauma rooms when Javadi's mum is in to help do the surgery, and Robbie lets Javadi kind of lead the charge to show up her mum, basically.
Dr. Javadi, why don't you glove up and show Dr. Shamsi why you belong in the ED?
For me, this feels like it kind of comes out of nowhere. I mean, he does see them having that confrontation a couple episodes ago and comments on it a little bit, but otherwise these two haven't really bonded as far as I can tell. So I'm kind of curious to see what kind of fueled this relationship. It might be sympathy for Javadi. Maybe Robbie had a similar relationship with his mum or grandma. Either way, these two have another nice moment in this episode, which genuinely makes me tear up every time I watch it. And I don't even know if I could tell you what's actually happening in here. It's when the cancer patient has died, and Robbie and Javadi are in the room, I think checking time of death, or just like generally checking the room and the people in it. Javadi is tearing up, obviously affected by the death, but is kind of staying quiet about it. Robbie catches it though, and almost seems taken aback. I mean, this whole scene has no dialogue, but something definitely happens here. We can almost see season 1 coming back to us, and I'm just like, no, wait, fucking stay, bitch. Where's this empathy normally? Season 1, Robbie, I miss you. The kids miss you. It may be that he's kind of shocked, but then moved by how Javadi's obviously feeling so many emotions about this patient, but then still also doing her job. I think something that Robbie is like struggling with is feeling emotions and doing his job. This is just such a sweet moment, and despite the scene being so sad, it's like the most comforted I've felt in a scene with Robbie in it since season 1, maybe. Every other time it's just been like, he's fucking going off the rails, and this is like, oh, he's being a good guy, he's looking out for her, he's being like, you can do this, he's being encouraging. Fuck, where is this energy normally, bitch? But then Robbie decides to be a dick again. Yay! Basically, he has having a conversation with Mohan because she missed something with Ogilvy's patient, which is technically fair, but also not because he didn't do the same thing with Whitaker, with Javadi's patient. And then Mohan's like, maybe I just don't belong here, and Robbie says nothing. Robbie, what is wrong with you? Well, we know what's wrong with him, but this is still so fucking annoying and heartbreaking for Mohan. If I don't hear Robbie say, you belong here to Mohan before the end of the season, I'm gonna buy a gun. This doctor is the nastiest skank bitch I've ever met. Do not trust her. She is a fugly slut. And my last point about Robbie is kind of going over this idea I was exploring last episode, with Robbie kind of separating his doctor life from his motorbike life. Duke and Whitaker are chatting by themselves, and Duke mentions that he didn't even know that Robbie was a doctor for like 6 months, I think he says. And I can only imagine the reason that Robbie wants this separation is because of how shit and stressful his life is at the Pit versus how nice and calm he feels when working on motorbikes and hanging out with Duke and stuff, I guess. I don't know, dude shit. But now these two worlds are kind of colliding with Robbie, and it definitely feels like a choice from him. Before he leaves the ER, he's willing to put these two lives together if he can save Duke and make sure that he's okay, to the point where he's gonna be staying a little bit longer in the ER to make sure that Duke actually, gets the care he's needed. He just wants to make sure that Duke is okay, the person who's just been with him for this motorcycle journey the whole time. This is his Zoom therapist, All right, guys, I think that summed up everything in this episode, so let's get into all the other little bits and pieces that have happened in this. Okay, Okay, I don't really, I'm gonna go see I'm gonna go check the breakers, I guess, I don't know. Okay, it's on, oh. Okay, I did forget something. What the fuck? Guys, these were my favorite nurses! Okay, so remember when I talked about Robbie pushing the ICE agents out and it had some consequences? Welcome to the fucking consequences. So the ICE agents went and started manhandling their detainee to go and get her out of there due to Robbie's pushing. But since they were hurting her, McKay and Jesse both tried to intervene and stop them, which somehow ends up with our king and legend Jesse on the floor with handcuffs on him. Robbie comes in and he tries to help out and checks that Jesse is knows his rights and stuff and all that. And Jesse, to his credit, looks unfazed. He looks like he wished he'd gotten another punch in. Or just a punch in, I guess. I don't even think he really punched him. I think he just, was like, stop. And they were like, fucking get on the ground. So we're one nurse down. And it's one of my favorites. I'm actually so sad. Wait. No. This means we're not gonna hold on. This means we're not gonna learn who did the fucking CPR doll. The CPR doll. If it's him, then my pins! Guys, this episode was such a bitch. Oh my god. And that's not even the worst of it. Emma. Guys, hula hoop's gonna happen. Fucking hula hoop. I didn't think it was actually gonna happen. I don't know why I didn't think that. It was very basic Chekhov's gunning, but I don't know. I was hoping it was like a red flag or no, a red herring. Just to make sure that everyone remembers, hula hoop is a safe word that tells everyone that a nurse is being attacked or whatever. I think at this point you kind of just skip the safe word and go straight to security. I don't really understand safe words in this context. Just fucking be like, help, I'm being attacked. Just, poor Emma. I'm gonna say with some confidence that she's gonna be okay, physically. I don't think she's gonna fucking die. Just, that would be kind of insane. And I mean, these hospitals are built so that you can see into every room with ease, so that they can, make sure patients aren't just dying and no one's looking at them. So the chances that someone spots her are pretty fucking good, you know? But in terms of like the long lasting effects of this, I'm so worried that this is the last straw for her. I mean, listen, if she leaves this ER tonight and still wants to come back, I think she's gonna be lasting a while. This has been like the shift from hell. But I wouldn't be mad if this is how the writers are gonna demonstrate how easily like nursing and doctors can be taken for granted and abused to the point of quitting. Because we haven't technically had that yet. We're almost seeing it with like Dana a little bit and kind of with Robbie, I guess. I mean, yes, definitely. But whatever happens with Emma, I hope she lives a long and prosperous life. Also, a quick side note, I've seen people online kind of not throwing blame, but, you know, talking about why was Emma in the room by herself when this guy was known to be intoxicated and violent? But this bitch was dead asleep milliseconds before he started throwing hands, okay? I don't think there's any way that they could have done anything differently without, like, wasting resources. I mean, maybe they could have tied him down, but that probably would have been bad without any actual, like, proof that he would be violent. There's a ton of stuff they could have done, but I think it's completely reasonable that they didn't. So yeah, that's 2 nurses down, a charge nurse who's about to work extra hours but has also had one of her nurses be attacked, a doctor who's about to get kicked out potentially for stealing drugs 10 months ago, and a doctor who is adamant on leaving permanently. The Pitt is doing amazing. Okay, so now it's time to go over the little bits and pieces. Joy takes Lexapro. I don't really know what that is, apart from that she tells us that it helps with anxiety and depression. So I'm gonna need a couple after this episode. Ogilvy is starting to be a little bit more understanding about, like, drug users and all that. He's been more empathetic. Thank you, Dr. McKay. Joy gets pretty defensive about a kid who's possibly being abused. I'm gonna say not necessarily to the point that it's quite a personal topic for her, but she doesn't play about it, you know? She's fucking like, if she's abusive, then we gotta fucking, you know, call it in. Langdon hurts his back when putting a kid on a table. Oh no, Langdon. Dude, there's been a lot of talk about him possibly relapsing. I really don't know. I'm curious. I think it's definitely starting to be, like, a question, you know? It's something that the writers are definitely, like, pointing out a little bit. Whitaker has been to a couple baseball games, apparently, but doesn't really know any, like, big players. Neither do I. So he was kind of like a sheltered kid, you know? This is like the crumbs that we are getting with his fucking backstory. I am so curious. Joy doesn't have a watch, so she has to borrow Perla's. She really doesn't give a fuck about being in the ER, and I kind of love it for her. She's not prepared, but in a way, like, Ogilvy's not prepared because he underestimates the ER and how difficult it's going to be, I guess, like the Pit specifically. But Joy isn't prepared because she doesn't want to be prepared. That's the vibe I'm getting. It's not like she's not prepared, just the fact she didn't wear a watch. She probably was like, I don't want to be here anyway, so, like, I'm not going to go buy a watch. I'm assuming she just doesn't have one. Or she doesn't want to ruin, like, the one she does have with blood. Okay, I'm gonna record this bit because, again, I didn't write any Michael moments, but there was definitely Michael moments, so I'm gonna say, if I'm good at my job, this is not my job, if I'm good at this, they'll be peppered in throughout the episode, so this is the total, I guess. Guys, this episode took me out. I need some recovery time. But recovery's for the week. I will be posting the next episode for episode 12 on Thursday, in 2 days, I think. Probably. Hopefully. If you simply cannot wait to hear my lovely voice again, and more discussions about the Pit, I've done this for every other episode beforehand. That's a whole 10 other episodes to watch. Whoa! That's actually a lot. You don't have to watch them all. And if you've already watched those, first of all, thank you. Second of all, be patient. The next episode's in 2 days. Okay, I need some time. This is difficult work. Alright, I'll see you all then. Go grab a snack or something. I'm gonna go take a nap, I guess. And I'll catch you on Thursday. Bye-bye. Ooh, it's so rainy. I love that.